Here is a statistic that stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered it. Chronic loneliness is associated with a 26% increase in the risk of premature death. It is as damaging to physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and it is a stronger predictor of early mortality than obesity. We are not talking about feeling a little sad on a Friday night. We are talking about a measurable, biological, life-shortening condition, one that is currently affecting an estimated 1 in 3 adults in the world. And here is what makes this conversation essential for this channel specifically. Isolation and mental illness have a relationship that runs in both directions. Mental illness drives people into isolation, and isolation makes mental illness worse. It is one of the most vicious cycles in all of human psychology. I have lived on both sides of that cycle, and I want to talk today about what breaks it. The antidote to isolation is not proximity, it is genuine community. And no institution in human history has articulated a more sophisticated model of genuine community than the church. The tragedy is that the church has often forgotten it. Welcome back. If you are new here, this is the Gospel and Psychology channel. And today we are bringing together two of the most important threads in this entire series: the neuroscience of human connection and the biblical theology of community. If you have been watching from the beginning, you will have heard community mentioned in almost every video, as a nervous system regulator in our worship video, as the container for honest lament in our grief video, as the safety net the church is failing to provide in our video 5 or so. Today we go deep on it because community is not peripheral to mental health, it is central. Here is what we are covering: what isolation actually does to the brain and body, the biology of loneliness; why the church's model of community is uniquely designed to address what isolation destroys; 4 specific elements of the Acts 2 community that map directly onto what psychology identifies as the components of genuine belonging; and what to do if you are isolated right now practically, honestly, and without shame. Let's go. The most comprehensive researcher on loneliness in the last 30 years was neuroscientist John Cacioppo of the University of Chicago. His life's work documented something the church has always known, but science is only now quantifying. Human beings are not designed for isolation. Here is what chronic loneliness does to the body. It elevates cortisol. Lonely people have measurably higher cortisol levels, meaning their bodies are in a sustained state of biological stress, even in objectively safe environments. Their nervous systems have learned that the world is not safe because they navigate it alone. It disrupts sleep. Lonely people experience more fragmented sleep, fewer hours of restorative deep sleep, and greater nighttime vigilance, the brain staying partially alert for threats because there is no trusted other to share the watch. It accelerates cognitive decline. Cacioppo's research showed that chronic loneliness accelerates cognitive decline in older adults at a rate comparable to heavy alcohol consumption. The brain, deprived of the stimulation and regulation of genuine relationship, begins to deteriorate faster. It amplifies mental illness. Isolation is both a symptom and a cause of depression and anxiety. It removes the co-regulatory benefit of safe relationship, eliminates the reality testing that other people provide, and creates conditions where distorted thinking goes unchallenged and unchecked. Psychologist John Cacioppo described loneliness as a biological signal, like hunger or thirst, designed to motivate the organism to seek connection. The pain of loneliness is not weakness. It is the body correctly identifying that something essential is missing. Social baseline theory developed by psychologist James Cone goes even further. It proposes that the human brain evolved to treat other people as a baseline resource for regulating the nervous system. We do not function optimally as individuals who occasionally connect. We function optimally as members of a group who occasionally separate. Isolation is not the neutral baseline, connection is. God said it first. In Genesis 2 verse 18, before sin entered the world, before the fall, in the original unbroken creation, God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone." Not it is inconvenient, not it is suboptimal, but it is not good. Isolation is a condition incompatible with human flourishing by divine design. The Bible is remarkably unambiguous about isolation and remarkably unromantic about it. Proverbs 18 verse 1 says, One who has isolated himself seeks his own desires. He rages against all sound wisdom. That is a strong statement. Isolation is framed not as a neutral choice, but as a condition associated with self-centeredness and resistance to wisdom. The person who withdraws from community loses the corrective, refining, reality-checking function that other people provide. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 to 12 gives us the positive case. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. This is not poetry about romantic love. This is a practical theology of mutual support, the observation that human beings accomplish more, recover faster, and withstand more when they are genuinely connected to others. And Hebrews 10 verse 24 to 25 makes it a command. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Meeting together is not optional. It is not a preference. It is a biological and spiritual necessity, dressed in the language of instruction. The most detailed picture of the functioning Christian community in the New Testament is Acts chapter 2 verse 42 to 47. And when you read it through the lens of what psychology identifies as the components of genuine belonging, something remarkable emerges. The early church was practicing evidence-based community formation before the evidence existed. Here are 4 elements from Acts 2 that psychology has independently identified as essential for mental health. Element 1, shared truth. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. The community was built on a shared understanding of reality, a common story about who they were, what had happened, and what it meant. Psychologists call this shared narrative, and research consistently shows that communities with a strong shared narrative produce greater belonging, lower anxiety, and higher resilience in members than communities without one. The church's shared narrative, creation, fall, redemption, restoration, is one of the most comprehensive meaning-making frameworks ever articulated. It answers the questions that loneliness amplifies. Who am I? Do I matter? Is there hope? The answer, every time, is yes. Element 2, shared vulnerability. They broke bread together. Breaking bread in the first century was an act of profound intimacy. You did not eat with strangers. You did not eat with enemies. The table was a space where guards came down, where real conversation happened, where people were known rather than merely seen. Vulnerability researcher Brené Brown has documented extensively that genuine belonging, the kind that actually heals loneliness, requires vulnerability, not performed vulnerability. Real disclosure of real experience. The early church did this at a table regularly, together. I think about the seasons in my own life when I have been most connected, and without exception, they involved a table, a small group, a meal, the kind of conversation that does not happen in a church auditorium with 2,000 people. Element 3, shared practice. They devoted themselves to prayer. The community prayed together not as a performance, not as a program, but as a shared practice that knit their nervous systems together through co-regulation, shared attention, and collective orientation toward God. Research on shared ritual activities that are repeated, meaningful, and done together consistently shows that groups with strong shared rituals have greater cohesion, lower individual anxiety, and higher collective resilience. The church's practice of gathered prayer is, among other things, a shared ritual of the most neurologically significant kind. Element 4, shared resources. They had everything in common. The early church was characterized by material generosity. People sold possessions and gave to anyone who had need. What psychology identifies as the mental health benefit here is not the economics, but the signal it sends. In this community, you will not be left alone in your need. You are safe here. Your survival is our concern. That signal, what attachment theorists call felt security, and it is one of the most powerful regulators of the nervous system available. Knowing that your community will not abandon you in difficulty allows the nervous system to move out of chronic threat mode and into genuine rest. The Acts 2 community was not just spiritually healthy, it was neurologically sophisticated. Shared truth, shared vulnerability, shared practice, shared resources, four elements that psychology has independently identified as essential for human flourishing, embedded in the earliest model of Christian community. Here is the honest tension. The church has the blueprint for the most psychologically sophisticated community model ever designed, and many churches are not building it. What many churches offer instead is proximity without vulnerability, attendance without belonging. A large auditorium, a good worship band, and an excellent sermon, and then everyone goes home alone, having been in the same room with hundreds of people without being genuinely known by any of them. Sociologists call this the difference between bonding social capital, deep, trust-based connections with a small number of people, and bridging social capital wide, shallow connections with a large number of people. Mental health requires both, but it especially requires the former. And large format church services, by design, produce bridging capital almost exclusively. This is not a condemnation of large churches. It is an observation that large church attendance, without intentional small community embedded within it, cannot produce the depth of connection that the human nervous system requires. You can attend a church of 5,000 people and still be profoundly, dangerously alone. Attendance is not belonging. Proximity is not community. And the church that mistakes one for the other is not fulfilling the Acts 2 mandate, however excellent its programming. I want to say something personal here. The loneliest I have ever been was not during seasons when I had no people around me. It was during seasons when I had many people around me and none of them knew what was actually happening inside me. That kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being unknown in a crowd, is the most insidious kind because it comes with the additional layer of shame. You are surrounded by people, so there must be something wrong with you for still feeling alone. What I have learned, slowly and with help, is that the remedy is not more people. It is deeper people. It is one or two relationships where the real thing is allowed in the room, where you do not have to manage your presentation, where you can be known not the version of you that functions well, but the version that is sometimes afraid, sometimes empty, sometimes completely lost. That kind of relationship does not happen automatically. It requires intention, it requires courage, and it requires choosing repeatedly to let your guard down with someone safe rather than keeping it up with everyone. But when it exists, even one such relationship, the neuroscience is unambiguous. Your nervous system changes, your cortisol drops, your capacity for resilience increases. Your brain begins to believe, at the most fundamental biological level, that the world is a place where you are not alone. That is what God had in mind when he looked at the first human being and said, "It is not good to be alone." Not a preference, a design specification. You were built for this, and it is still available to you. So if you are isolated right now, and many people watching this are, here is what I want to say to you. First, the fact that you are isolated does not mean you are unlikable, broken, or beyond community. It means you are in a gap that needs intentional bridging. That is a solvable problem. Second, here are specific practical steps. Start small. You do not need a deep community of 10 people. You need one person, one safe, trustworthy person with whom you can begin to practice being known. Start there. One relationship pursued with intention changes your nervous system. Join something small. Large church services cannot produce bonding capital. Small groups, Bible studies, prayer groups, and community service teams can. If your church has small groups, join one. If it does not ask for one, the research is clear. Size matters for depth. Be honest first. Community forms around honesty. If you show up to every small group performing wellness you do not have, you will remain unknown and therefore alone, even in community. The risk of honest disclosure is the price of genuine belonging. It is worth paying. Seek professional support for severe isolation. If your isolation has become deeply entrenched, if social anxiety makes connection feel impossible, if past relational trauma has made trust feel unsafe, please seek professional help. A therapist can work specifically on the barriers to connection in ways that good intentions alone cannot. Give as much as you receive. The Acts 2 community was characterized by mutual generosity. Connection is not only about receiving support, it is about offering it. Being needed by someone else is one of the most powerful antidotes to loneliness that exists. Look for where you can contribute, not only where you can be cared for. Here is what I want you to do this week. One thing. Reach out to one person, not a crowd, one person. Send a message, make a call, suggest a meal. One intentional step toward genuine connection with one safe person. That is it, one person, this week. And then come back to the comments and tell me, did you do it? How did it go? This comment section is itself a small community. Use it. If this video helped you, share it, especially with someone you know is isolated right now. This video might be the thing that helps them name what they are experiencing and take one step toward community. Subscribe. Every week we go deep here, and we are building something together on this channel that I am genuinely proud of. Check out the full series playlist, 17 videos now, each one building on the last. If you have been watching from the beginning, thank you. You are part of this community. In our next video, we are closing out this season with one of the most important questions of the entire series, which is, stop confusing peace with the absence of pain. Here's what the Bible actually promises. It is going to reframe something fundamental about how you understand the life of faith. Do not miss it. Until then, reach out to one person. Your nervous system needs it, and so does theirs. God bless you.